Hey everybody, so this video is really mostly to males and mostly young males. Although, if you're a female and you're perceptive, you can kind of flip the coin around on this and probably apply a lot of it. But because so many young males and over the years have come to me with certain patterns of what they're asking for, what the topic is, what they're approaching, and this is an area where I had a missing piece and I couldn't help. And because of personal breakthroughs recently in life and connections made, I'm starting. This is just me starting to have useful insights in the area, but I want to put it out there due to recent conversations I've had with some of you on this channel, and due to all the past times I couldn't really give somebody a good answer, and it generally left me feeling sort of just kind of weirded out or even grossed out because I didn't know what to do with the topic, or I'd get mad and impatient with people. I could even get judgy about it, all showing that these were blind spots with me. So I just didn't deal with people on it because, I don't want to pretend to be helping in areas where I don't actually know, and I'd be messing it up. But at this point, I got some things to say here. So a lot of guys have come to me, and I'm going to subdivide some categories here, some different directions to go with this. But what is missing when they come to me, and it's like, well, they'll say things about relationships with the significant other, and they'll say things like, what do you think about so and so and this or that belief about women and females, or other ones it's just like they've given up entirely. It's not worth it. Relationships are too hard. All the women are crazy nowadays. I can't make it work no matter what, so I'm not going to do this to myself anymore. Others go down the aggressive objectifying and using women physically, which is also psychological and emotional, really, but and then treating them like objects or subhuman or something. And I didn't see any connections between these things before, so I would just sort of try to share a few authentic tips on things I do know help in a long-term relationship, and try to encourage people not to be so negative and distorted and believe every negative narrative they hear. But I'm starting to understand a connection where most of these guys, not all, but a lot of guys, a high number in those categories I'm trying to describe, and if you feel like you might be one of them, try to hear me here if you can. I believe that a lot of the root issue that a lot of you are dealing with, the actual root, is a very narcissistic experience with a female in your life that's been profoundly influential upon you in your formative years. Now, granted, some of the guys I've dealt with, it might have been more a male influence, but a little more specifically here, when it comes to the issue of how a lot of guys view females these days, what they think women are, or what they think relationships are, or what they think it means or should mean, or whatever. What I'm trying to describe in this video pertains to a lot of you who I believe have no idea how to look for the root cause of this. And, hey, you're not alone. That's normal. That's the human experience. And because it's so close to home, wherever this root cause is coming from, that's why it's going to be so hard for you to find or see. But I've seen enough patterns now, and I've experienced enough things in life and observed enough things to recognize that not knowing that you've had your understanding of what you are manipulated in a way, and not recognizing the cause of where that came from, means that you're operating going forward already off trajectory. Like, let's pretend that a straight up line was you being the natural you and discovering what a natural healthy relationship between you and that significant other would be. And then, because of some things that have happened that haven't been identified clearly, accurately and bravely and wisely, your trajectory is some which way off. I mean, picture a big old orb, and it could just be any direction, but it's not straight up. It's not operating from truth, okay? There's some untrue things foundationally here. So the trajectory's off. So, if you know anything about sailing, especially in the older times, so-called, if you're off a little bit and you're aiming for some island, or you could take it out in outer space. If you aim towards some planet and your trajectory's off, you're going to totally miss it. You're never even going to see it. You're going to be so far off by the time you passed it. And human psychology, emotions, spirituality, consciousness has a lot of aspects like that as well. So when you're missing the fact that something foundationally has been manipulated in you that has you really operating from some false premises about what you supposedly are as a man, and what women supposedly are, and all these things. And I'm not mocking anybody right now, okay? um, I have made profoundly self-destructive mistakes in life many times over, as part of my education on topics like this. So, not laughing at anybody. If anything, I'm laughing with you if you can have a brief moment of levity. Because otherwise, as you start to wake up to what actually goes on in your individual life, you can be overwhelmed by a feeling of how truly effed it all is, to put it lightly. And you don't want to let that get you. In fact, we're going to talk about various ways the darkness can get you and use you. And really, we're already starting to talk about it, because if you're a male and you're out there and say you're more on the aggressive or selfish, or I may not have all the right words here, and not all of them would have to be negative, but let's say you're a guy coming up and you've been abused, narcissistically manipulated, and you don't really realize this because this particular formative strong case was too close to home, so you don't see it. It's in your blind spot still. Um, if you're on that more aggressive side of the spectrum I'm trying to describe, and you're out there like using women, sleeping with as many as you can, it's a game, you're manipulating, you're doing this and that. Or you're on the other side of the spectrum, perhaps you're more empathetic by nature or for other reasons possibly, and you go more the direction of, I'm not enough. So what is it I'm going to have to do or be or look like or have or say or all of the above to get with the woman that I'm idolizing as above me? And I'm projecting this onto her. And then there's the third ones, the other group that has given up, understandably, and they're just not participating in the game, which means you're missing out a lot on what could be, of course. And I can tell you retrospectively in life, you may think that what you're missing out on isn't a big deal at the time. There's certain things in life when you look way back and realize what could have been had you not been under great deception. It can be extremely painful and enraging, to put it lightly. So I'm saying this because for those with the ears to hear, I'm often asked, what would you say to your 18-year-old self? Or, different ages and, questions like that. Well, this is one of the really important things I'd be talking with to the younger me. Okay. So I'm doing that in a sense with you guys, because whatever you've done to anyone, really you've done to the same creator, the same God. It's a spiritual principle. So essentially, mathematically, I am doing it for me. Okay. By doing it for you. So what I'm trying to describe and paint a picture of here is this scenario you have in the world now. Now, on the female side, there's going to be some destructive narratives, and they can go some different ways. You got the ones that are doing all kinds of synthetic things to their body so they can be objectified better, thinking that's going to work, and going through all the horrible life consequences that come from being tricked down that path. Or perhaps, let's say, exploring it if we want to own it and overpower it at some point. And on the male side, something similar. You got this, you guys taught me the term looks maxing, which, I almost kind of gag when I first hear it. And my initial impressions of it are just, oh, how cringy. But the empathetic side of me wants to attach some wisdom and see where this is coming from and actually be actually useful, which means you're going to be hearing something, um, some things that, like I say, if you start to get it and see it and put this all together, it might actually be overwhelming, the amount of awakening you have about your own life. But the truth is, the spirit that guides you, the spirit that overlooks you, the spirit even that inhabits you, when your intentions about this are pure, are to heal, are to grow, are to become more true, are to know truth more, any of these things that honor the nature of the creator through your decisions, you'll be given what you can handle as you can handle it. I'm just not saying it's going to be easy, okay? But the issue with staying blue pill, so to speak, is that you're being used by the darkness. And, not only have you been stolen from, through deception, and a part of you and parts of your life have died because of this, and you know, aspects of you and your life have been destroyed, which of course that's what the darkness does, right? It comes deceiving, and it does, what does it do? All it does is kill, steal, and destroy. So these marks are already there. The evidence is there. And the problem is, because you've made excuses now, I've been through this, because you've made excuses for abusers in trying, and you know, this comes from honorable intentions about who and what you are, but it's very misguided and it's very self deceitful at some point, because you've made excuses for abuse because you needed to, because it fit in your life model a lot easier to do that than to face the gravity of what was really happening to you. And because you were in situations where you weren't given the option to honor yourself, speak for yourself, be real with yourself, so you had to abandon yourself because of what you were going through. This is a trait that human consciousness has. Um, and you may wonder why in other areas of life you abandon yourself or sabotage yourself. It's connected to this, okay? And you're doing it in relationships. You're destroying any chance of a loving where two become one, and that equals like three. Um, kind of a multiplication human experience that you know inside yourself, um, is part of your nature and a profoundly good thing. But you look at the world, you've gone down these avenues, you've become the abuser, or you've become the abused who's always chasing, trying to be good enough. So in this case, you know, you're enabling the other person, because you will attract narcissistic type relationships that take advantage of this in you, whether they know they're doing it outright on purpose or it's just something they've fallen into through their own self deception. But you'll attract it and experience it. So you're doing all these things to be the right guy, to be what you think is needed, to be what you think equals now you deserve to have a good, loving relationship. And you're doing all this stuff because you've been trained that way by someone close to you already. Okay, this is going to be hard to see. That's the root. And like, if you want to fix anything in your physical body, some of you, no doubt, there's plenty of smart people in this channel. So some of you have no doubt noticed, or you already knew, and you just see more evidence and examples of it around here on this channel. But if you want to actually cure a physical condition, you have to address the root. You can't do what the systems you've seen and the models you've been shown do to take advantage of the outcomes and the situations and the symptoms. And when it comes to the online world and what's happened to dating and what's happened to the younger generations, not having any idea where this comes from and then going to the wrong place to look for an answer, it's just gotten more and more distorted. So at some point, you have to face the fact, not only was I deceived out of who I am, can be, and what relationships are by the darkness, I'm doing its work for it now in a different way than how it was done to me. Because you probably have a, well, unless you don't, in which case I'm probably not talking to you, but most those of you that I'm talking to, the reason you've been deceived so greatly by this is because in most cases it's not really your nature to be a great deceiver and try to um, always virtue signal your entire life but never have a single authentic conversation or relationship with anybody, because everything's pure manipulation to feed a hole inside of you that you're going to always disguise and work very hard to make into something else. Like, I don't think that's who I'm talking to here. I'm talking to you guys who don't know why you do the things you do and don't know why relationships look hopeless and why you've made the decisions you have about it. Um, but that's very sad, which you've had stolen from you. And it's very sad what women have had stolen from them. And I'm talking to them too. We're human. It's all the same problem here. Just because the spirit divides flesh into two polarities, that's because, you know, think about, this is what pops to mind. Think about unlimited energy, where you position magnets across metal things that spin just right, and you get this unlimited energy going. Well, that's how it can be with male and female, okay? And I'm not speaking against other types of relationships right now. I'm speaking about what I know and what I see and what I have messages to speak about given to me. So as I go through my own healing, learning, rebuilding, being broken down again, being recycled, trying again, you know, um, life's been a mulcher, but in that mulcher, um, there's been a great deal of stuff attained that if I want it to be worth it to me, all the pain, I need to, for my own soul's sake, I need others in this creation, in this darkness, that some of these topics lead into, to benefit. Okay, that's what I need. I need to spare some of you the pain and the pain you'll cause others and the wasted time and the lost opportunities, because that's what this is all about. And by the way, even if you're like way older, even older than me, and I'm considered old, I remember the days where we didn't have computers and internet and you just worked in real world scenarios. Whoa, it was like dinosaurs back then. But anyway, even if you're older than me and this is resonating with you, it's not at all hopeless, not at all. If you're alive and breathing and you hear this and it matters to you, there's a reason. That means there's an opportunity still. There's still great opportunity. So I guess what I would recommend to you guys is facing up to and going. See, guys ask me for rites of passage. This is a rite of passage. This is there's a lot of tough guy physical rites of passage that certain types would sign up for, but there's not a lot of people on this planet, me included, that would sign up, at least not now in the human experience, would say, oh yeah, let me sign up for that rite of passage. Because what I'm talking about here is um, it's a real cycle of destruction and rebirth, in a sense, okay? But the truth is, you've been largely destroyed by it already. It's just been, in most cases, mostly unconscious up to this point. And the dysfunctions of that project themselves everywhere into your lives and others. And you've missed opportunities, but there will be more if you'll become like a child and be born again in this area and go through what it takes. But a child is, before they're taught not to be, a child is innocent about what makes them angry, what makes them cry. They're honest. And chances are that got trained out of you very quickly. And you had to prioritize other things over honesty. And this is where the losing of oneself and one's actual way begins. So when it comes to critical relationships that can make you or break you, be profound blessings or curses or very destructive or very wonderful, etc., and may in fact be some of all the above, um, addressing addressing the root cause of these things is the wise thing. It's the only thing, really. When something, when you figure out you're off course, but you don't know where a course is, you have to go back to what knocked you off course. And you have to face it for what it is. And you have to create, you have to recreate the beliefs that you hold that you don't know you hold because you had to be dishonest to survive the situations you've been in, and you had to abandon yourself. So you don't know the real you. You know a lot of things the world's filled your mind with. Um, and the vast majority of it you'd have been better off not hearing, probably. But this is your life experience, and speculating about what could have been and should have been is usually vain and unproductive. But to know that you can go forward wasting and missing the rest of the profound opportunities in your life and also causing harm and giving into and being deceived by the very darkness that broke you and hurt you and stole from you and becoming an agent of it that ends up passing on damage in your own way, whether you see it or not. These are all things that the real you, it's not in your nature. It's not in your nature. You're defying the nature of your spirit and your soul. Okay. And I'm not judging again. This is not, oh, you're in trouble. You're being judged by God. It's not any of that religious. Usually that's just narcissistic manipulation too, to scare you and control you and make you not question what's abusing you. There's many forms of it in this world, but that darkness takes its place everywhere, that there's a voice to be heard. It does what it can. But the thing about that is that everyone knows to look out there for a problem. And if you go looking for trouble, you can find it. But the big ones in your personal life, in almost all cases, will be very, very close to you and foundational. Okay? So let those with the ears to hear and the eyes to see start addressing that, because if you find the root and change your relationship to it and create freedom from it and the control that it has on you, the vines and the implants and the strangling thorns and the tentacles and all the karmic ties or whatever you want to call it that it's made into you, energetic ties that you've allowed and even justified and defended up to this point. And it's going to be hard to see and it's going to be hard to deal with, but it's going to be profoundly growth inducing. And when you've done it and you make space to become free, at some point that freedom and clarity is going to start sinking in, and you're going to be able to retrace your steps and discover much more accurately who you actually are instead of living a bunch of false realities. They really aren't your fault, okay? But it's not about fault, it's about identification. It's about clear identification and understanding and positive change and correction of that which is not true that you're living from, okay? That's enough for now on this. I love you guys and I mean well. And, there'll be more along these types of topics as it's meant to be. And just know that myself and others, and there are higher consciousnesses above human, more than you know, and more loving towards you and more caring about you and what you're going through than you understand right now. Because one of the problems here that we're even discussing is that people don't even know what love is because they've been told things are love which aren't. And so then they're out experiencing that and it's distorting them. And then they become distorted. And like I say, some give up, some play use me, whether they know that or not, usually on the more empathic side of things, take advantage of me in every way and, siphon your life from me and control me and so forth. And I'll jump through all these hoops and do all these things to earn the illusion of love or something as like a trade currency, like it's money and business and filthy lucre or whatever. And then, there's uh, you kind of went selfish with it and just decided that, oh, I guess women aren't real anyway. I'm just going to take advantage and do all these things. And you're doing a lot of harm to those women and to their future, hopefully, like meaningful relationships and so forth. So these things all need to be faced starting at the root. That's the point, my friends. Much love.